Hey y'all, Brian Trendline boys. It's been a while. Just gonna get a quick update out. Obviously, quick always means 20 minutes. So let's do this as quick as we can. We can kind of see like an uptrend. We're gonna go over a couple things. Same thing as usual. Apple, Nasdaq. We'll go over Bitcoin a bit, quickly. I think it's not really so much the SPY. I think the Dow has gotten near something. We can just kind of show that real quick up here with the day time frame. So we're just gonna kind of go quick through some of these things and just show what I'm looking for. And I still think most of this is a trader's market, not an investor's market. Today was a pretty nice day for what it was. I've only been looking at some of the stuff here and there, but just from what I always say, I like to see us start right above. Preferably, as usual, I like to see when we start somewhere under here, we start above right in this area. But I'm not a big stickler about it. It's not really a big deal. So starts like this are all really nice. Um, kind of for what they are anyway. So let's get all out of this real quick, then we can see. So for what it's worth, I think this is a pretty nice start. Same as usual, we're looking at this being our range overall. We can lower this quite a bit. We'll just move this. Well, it's not a good line, but whatever. We'll just move that there more or less. It's a crappy line, but anyway, you'll kind of get the gist of it, right? So if this is our range, you can pretty much see more likely we're going to push up than we're going to push down. So it just makes more sense here. So boom, we come up, we came back down. It kind of is what it is. I still think it looks pretty nice. There are a couple glaring issues that we can kind of see just with the trend here. So like a couple of the issues that we have are one, we have not come back down to touch it here. And today, technically, we haven't come back down to touch it here. So while this did start in a fairly strong place to test up, we're still having a little bit of trouble. So we are holding this uptrend for it. Kind of a nice, it's not like a nice flag per se, but it's like okay for what it is. The issue is if we test back down. So one of the main things I'll just go over this. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see us start under here today. I don't think that necessarily means we're going to push down, but to me, it's let's say I bought in. I don't know where really, to be honest, because maybe in the beginning of the day today, there's a lot of places I didn't like here. If I remember correctly, on Tuesday, I think we started right near the top. Yeah, we started right near the top. So this obviously isn't a buy point. This is okay. We bounced here, but this didn't exist before this came here. So there's not a lot of crazy points, but let's say for some reason I was still in and I didn't want to be in and I was sketched. For me, for a 1-2 to get out is we can just kind of see this is a pretty strong area. So my concern is if we do start the day under here, is that we could then start another day down here and then push down for this area. And then I'd have to see a day start all the way back down here. So we'll kind of see what happens with this in a sense. Today's what? Thursday, tomorrow. Okay, for some reason I thought today was Friday. But we'll have Thursday and then we'll see what happens with all of that per se. But this is kind of what I would expect. If we do see this, I would be more likely expecting this. Now, of course, we could just start back up here and then push up, and still think that would be fine to an extent. We do have an issue with this. It's nice to have a low than a higher low relative to this, but still a lower low relative to here. Ultimately, a lot of this stuff is really sketch. I don't want to get into it too much. We can just kind of adjust this down here for now. I think it's more or less fine to just do that. And this is kind of my concern for it is that, and I'll show it with the volume profile real quick, right? And then this down to 122. These are ranges. So this is really kind of one of the biggest ranges that we do have. We're looking at 2.46%. Up here, we're looking at 1.92. Down here, if we come down, that's a little sketchy. If we do come down, this is also relatively the same size as what we have here. Um, but the implications of coming down here are much worse than messing with the range that it's currently in. We have cleared the range right here on, I believe that was Tuesday, and we have more or less cleared the range today also as well, but we did get this nice hit towards the end. So overall, I think some of the stuff looks okay. Let me kind of clarify some of the stuff also with the Dow Jones, though, that is a little bit sketchy. So I think we could see some upwards pressure or some upwards momentum, wherever you want to call it, if we can start above the day here on the Dow. But we can kind of see how this is just constantly becoming an issue. I think it was September 7th or something. September 13th was the last time that we came through this. I don't know if I'd want to say interacted. The last time I'd say interacted was probably September 2nd. I think this is more of an interaction because if we remember, I don't remember this day specifically. I remember the 12th. I don't remember this Friday specifically, so I'm not going to talk about it. I don't look at the Dow Jones so much, so I don't want to say anything about this day. But I know this looks a lot. If I had a guess based on some of these other ones, I would have imagined that this, like, right, we have a big gap. It looks like September 12th, but it kind of is what it is. It's not really a huge deal. But we can also see over here as well, if we check out the day on the Nasdaq, it's not as bad, and it could push up here. It doesn't look super amazing. I would like to see this come down probably to about 10.83, maybe 10.85, somewhere in this range. I would prefer that before seeing it try to fight back up. It doesn't look that pretty. I don't like it from this perspective. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what are we doing here? Are we going to create something lower than this? And is that going to get us wrecked down from here and then push down farther? So that is kind of a concern, maybe some sort of inverse head and shoulders in that perspective. So I'm not a big fan of this one because we have the fib level here. I think it's fairly strong for what it is. I can just give it a quick zoomed out view. This is only from 2019 for the skilling, so it kind of is what it is. But I like this level. I think it's fairly strong. We didn't hit all the way down here, so that is still kind of an issue for this having a lot of strength. And so we had the fib level, and then we have the day right above it. So maybe we'll have a better chance once this meets up here. If this can push through in this area, I think that looks great. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Apple anyway. It's just kind of quick overview. It's hard to know what I want to see here because we've just it's done a great job today. Like I said before, it started here. This looks like a great entry point because even if it's just a small position or like a 60% of what the normal position would be, I'd probably say 70 to 80 because like I said before, we're looking at this is our range. We're about 10%. Let's do this. We can see where we are. Um, so if we're taking the top of the range being here, yeah, we're pretty much 9% up. So we start about, because this is the point one right here. So we start about, there's only 9% down to go, and there's 90% possibly up to go. So that's kind of one thing there. So we'll see. Like I said before, I expect there's a high chance that we'll start under this tomorrow, since a lot of these targets have been hit. Overall, the Dow Jones looks bad on the day time frame as well. The Nasdaq, on skilling anyway, looks pretty bad on the day time frame as well, or at least looks better to kind of come down a little bit more. I don't know what the SPY's been doing. I think the 4 hour is what it's interacted with. So yeah, we've just been interacting with the 4 hour. This was a pretty easy short entry. Kind of knowing what happened also just on Apple anyway. I believe, I don't remember the Dow Jones in this day. Um, yeah, so we could probably say with the Dow Jones too. It looked like it came up to hit it. I think Apple, though, it also came up to hit it anyway. It's a little surprising. I mean, you could definitely see it. I would have been, if I was messing, like I said, stuff's been going on, but I was messing with this stuff. I would have been a little bit hesitant to mess with the SPY that day because if we look here, we have a little bit of room to go up on the Dow, and we also have a little bit of room to go up on Apple from where we started to hit the target. Now, both of the targets were hit and it was pushed down, but it's a little bit weird to see the SPY like, so long story short, what I would have expected looking at this is like I can look at this as a 4 hour and say, oh yeah, of course, it makes sense. It just got pushed down. But I would have expected this to wick up a little bit more, come up a little bit more, create a wick here before moving down, seeing as there was at least a little bit of room for both like Apple and also the Dow to try to push back up. So that was a little bit surprising to me, for what it's worth. We could also see like on the NDQ, which has a lot more time frame. We can see that we have the day up there, but we have also the 4 hour of somewhat similar positions to SPY. So I don't want to look at that too much more. We're kind of pushing down from the VIX. Looks pretty bad from a 4 hour perspective anyway. The 12 and the day are kind of coming up on the price. We can just kind of move it there. It is what it is. We'll just leave them both here. So we kind of these in this area. We'll bring this down here. Okay. So I mean, it's looking pretty. Whoops. It's looking pretty nice for what it is. One thing I would say I'm not a huge fan about it is it does, just on the short term anyway, it does look like this is a pretty heavily weighted area in between these two levels. So one kind of concern that I do have on the short term is if we do come to these levels, that puts us under the day time frame, and then that puts us under resistance in a sense for the VIX, and that could cause us to go up. So we'll kind of see what happens with this stuff and kind of have to play it ear by ear. Like I said before, this is a trader's market, more than anything. Home Depot looks really bad. That's pretty surprising for what it's worth, considering it's on somewhat of a downtrend. And then it starts under here today. That's very concerning. Like what we saw with Apple hitting a lot of targets, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ specifically, like what we've seen on the day time frames here. This is quite not good, and also this is also quite not good for what it is. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. Home Depot definitely is a little sketch, especially when we see this kind of like megaphone pattern or whatnot. Then we're looking at what somewhere around 220, and it's at 270. I'm not saying it's going to go there, but it's definitely sketchy, especially when we look at this from where it is over here, and we look at what's over here also as well in the next relative area. So a lot of sketchy stuff. I don't remember why this is even here specifically. I could kind of even see a more weighted area right around in this area, around here. This though still brings us down to here, so it still brings us down under whatever the weighted area would be over here. So that's kind of interesting for what it is. USD WTI, same thing. I feel like that we've seen a lot of weakness in this just because it got bought up so quick. I mean, we'll see what happens with gasoline though. I think it's kind of hard to make a bet. I thought yesterday this looked pretty bad for what it was. We managed to. It still looks pretty indeterminate. It's for what I normally look at and what I like with price action. I think this is a great spot to try to pick it up at. It's just started the day pretty much right above the average, so I kind of like where it is. My one big concern, as usual, is even though we have this wick yesterday, we did manage to put up and get this wick, which kind of invalidates this in a sense. But this becomes the issue to what we have going on here. So it's possible instead of going anywhere, it ends up just ranging here and then needs to start above or under again. It needs to create more of a pattern before it chooses a direction. I still think it's more bearish than it is bullish. One of the biggest things about it I'd like to see is it to actually come back in this area. As I said before, the week started off not strong. When we pushed up from this, we pushed up from a very weak spot. So I like seeing I like confirmation back down here. We haven't touched this 80.79, 80.76 level yet. And also on the month that we're still on, we've started from a fairly weak level. So we're going to have to contend with this huge wick up here, depending on where we come down. And if we do come back down here to start, this wick's going to be even. Like if we start here, we're going to have a huge wick to contend with, which is it's kind of a really big issue with that. Getting onto Bitcoin, still I think it looks like crap. Honestly, I think it even looks more like crap than what it was yesterday. I don't think it's time to be in it. I don't think it's time to be in a short. I don't think it's time to be in a long personally in either one. The market kind of go which either way. I think it's easy to trade with markets open. I guess the biggest glaring places for here is, of course, the week 200 that we'll have right here. So we don't want to see a weak start under this. In my opinion, everything starts to collapse once we see a weak start under this. We haven't seen a weak start under this ever. As long as we go to BLX, like I said, time and time again, we go to the week time frame. We have 2022, 2020, and then we have 2015. So we've never, I don't know about down here, but we've on the 200 smooth, we've never had. First of all, we've never had a weak start under. Second of all, we've never had it come back down like this. That's the first, and we've also never had it come back down and touch. So it still hasn't done that yet. This is the first time it's come back down after bouncing. Um, but we haven't had it ever come back down and touch again in this relatively short amount of time. So that's kind of another big thing there. I'm not saying it's like the Hang Seng, which is where we've seen something similar, where on the month time frame, we probably would have had a hit here, boom, came back down, then pushed up. So, in the same thing, we see it's very, very close. Doesn't touch it, but it's very, 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 very close. We can see right here, this was a pretty easy call for what it was worth. At the time, I didn't know how this. I don't want to get into it too much. I didn't know how this translated in anything. I could have made a Neo play. Didn't want to play K-Tech because it was so low volume. It kind of scared me. But this was like an easy Neo whatever play. I didn't understand like okay, the Hang Seng goes up, then it makes sense. These Chinese stocks, especially the tech stocks like Bilibili or and Neo, are just going to shoot up. So that was that. But we've come down again. We've started the week under here or the month under here. We can even see on the shorter time frames, we started a week under. We've never started a week under. That's the first thing, but we've never also had to start a month under. So we started here, we came back up, pushed down. So I'm not saying this is what it's going to be like for Bitcoin, but that is more or less the kind of general feeling that I have for Bitcoin around that week time frame, which would be a week ending under 18K for Bitcoin, causing something like that. I definitely think that could kind of be the catalyst. Oh wow, this has to be. I'm on a different monitor. This has to be 144 hertz because it is so smooth how it just move. I don't know. Maybe it's not. It feels smooth when I move through these the different cryptos and stocks. Tesla, I guess we can go over real quick. I guess we can go over gold in a second also. So Tesla, we've had our bounce. We look at the month time frame down here. If we look at the week time frame, I still think we're pretty oversold, but we did get bought up quite a bit, which is a big problem. And the rest of the market also looks bad. Like I said before, I wanted to see this end here. This would have been a pretty bullish looking candle. I want to see the next week start here, and I think we could have had a decent chance to rise all the way back up and return all the way back up to 255.78, 256, but it doesn't look like that anymore, especially when we start all the way down here. I mean, it looks like it's done a fairly decent job from where it is. I could see buying into this with a somewhat small position, expecting it to maybe like push up. Be honest, when I look at this, though, I have to say I'm not a big fan of this. And the number one reason is this is Friday, so we're looking at where the next week starts. So I don't think this was a crazy good buy. Gonna be like straight up. I don't think this was a good buy when I look at this. Even looking at it in hindsight, like I could say, oh, it went up, and I could try to BS, but no, truthfully, I don't think this looked amazing. Like we end here. I don't like holding things over the week unless they look great. And then like what happens if we start the week here, right? You're getting destroyed in your position, not just wrecked or screwed. You're getting destroyed, reamed so hard. So that's definitely a pretty big issue for what it is. Let's go over gold real quick if we can. I think those are pretty easy and quick ones to go over. So gold's still kind of pushing down. We can see from here. Let's just go to the month because this is was the whatever. Yeah, this was the last month was right here, and then the current month was right here. So we can just see those for relevance as we go through here. Okay, we see this. We see that we started under the month. We got that push up, and then we can kind of just see what it's been doing in these two areas. So I point this out because if we look at last month anyway, for September, we're gonna like here. If we just check this, let's actually just put it here because it adds a little bit more relevancy, and let's see where this is actually exactly. Is that 167866, 167? Can I get it? 7866. There we go. And so if we look at this on the day time frame, we can kind of see a little bit better. This is why I have it up here also as well. We can just see what it's been doing there and the previous resistance. Even though the new one lines here, obviously there's going to be a significant amount of price action around this level. So we can kind of just see in these two areas. We start under, we push up, we start in an area of weakness pretty much on the month time frame. We come back down, we push down. So that's kind of that. I still don't like it. I still think 15 something is probably the target. Is at 1542. It's a little bit higher now. It's 1545. Still looks like a pretty decent target. Maybe overall 1502. Maybe we'll see something like oil in a sense. What I'd like to see is maybe we'll drop down here, drop under, and then this would be like 85 for oil in a sense. If we take a quick reference, a quick look and reference oil here for a second, we can kind of see this same similar thing. Now, the one thing I hated about oil is that we didn't really play super nice with it. We didn't come back down to this line, didn't have a lot of good price action on it, then pushed up. We pretty much just came up, barely came down, and then try to push up, which was to me was really stupid. I've been saying it's really stupid. So that's also another possibility that we have for gold, and it looks ugly and then pushes even farther down. Like I always say, I think gold's worthless. So what's gold going to do you? Who are you going to sell your gold to when things really get bad? Nobody. It's not a supply. It's not a gun. It's not ammo. It's not going to protect you. You want to sell it. You want to transfer it or trade it for something. Okay, now you have to go to someone that can verify that it's real. They're going to take a cut out of whatever you're trying to do. So it's just like, get out of here. Your gold's not going to be worth anything. Like, no. Like, it's going to be worth something, but whether you can actually cash it out for something, whether something has value and whether you can trade it for its actual value, I think are two completely different things. As I've said time and time and time and time again. So we've kind of already hit the target here, more or less. So we'll kind of have to see. I'll come back. We only have 30 seconds, so I'll end it here. We'll have to come back and see. We've already hit the target here. So I'm not exactly sure what we might be seeing now. So it kind of just is what it is. So I just kind of want to put this out there. I hope you all are doing really well. And I'll talk to you guys later and we'll see. And I'll get it back into some of these other things. But I just wanted to put this one video out at least, and hopefully I'll be able to stream next week and, be able to make some money together again. So take care, guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe, and hope you're doing well in your trades.